Colorado's ADX Florence is the only federal Supermax prison in the U.S., housing accused terrorists, gang leaders, and other extremely dangerous convicts. To maintain order, inmates live under extreme scrutiny. How extreme? Well, security there is called super maximum for a reason. ADX Florence is listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as the planet's most secure prison. It's known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, and no one has escaped the facility since it opened in 1994. While most of the prisoners sent there are considered dangerous or violent, the facility doesn't treat them all the same. Florence has 6 different units, each with a different level of security. The harshest is the control unit. There, inmates are held in complete isolation, even during rec time, and are confined to their cells for at least 23 hours per day. Prisoners sent there for behavioral problems are evaluated monthly. If they act up at all, those 30 days don't count toward their sentence.
The Special Housing Unit, or SHU, is primarily for new inmates.
The Special Security Unit is for inmates deemed security risks by a judge, including gang leaders and terrorists. In addition, there's also a general population wing, which functions much like the control unit but with inmates allowed out of their cells for up to 2 hours daily. Step-down units are for prisoners being transferred from a higher security unit into the relatively more lenient general population. Once in step-down, those prisoners are allowed to converse with other inmates. The least restrictive area at ADX Florence is the Kilo unit. This is where inmates with no history of violence toward guards and no behavioral write-ups for the previous 3 years are held. Kilo unit primarily houses notorious or famous prisoners or those who would be in danger of being attacked if they were housed in the general population. Every inmate incarcerated at ADX Florence has been convicted of reprehensible crimes. Some of these prisoners are deemed more dangerous than others in terms of the lasting social or political ramifications of their crimes or the level of risk to the public should the inmate be released back into society. These offenders are held in the Special Security Unit, also known as the Hotel Unit or H Unit. The population of H Unit is made up of inmates convicted of acts of terrorism, those with documented links to terrorist organizations, and high-ranking members of criminal gangs. These inmates have had special administrative measures levied against them, usually by judicial order. If the courts have determined that access to outside channels of communication could lead to more acts of terrorism or other crimes, those prisoners are subjected to extra security measures. For example, all written materials heading to Special Security Unit inmates are carefully screened and examined by staff. This includes mail, magazines, books, and newspapers. Their visits and phone calls are also observed and scrutinized.
They say after 14 days in solitary confinement, the brain begins to atrophy.
Generally speaking, prisons are designed to deprive inmates of their rights and independence in the name of punishment and in the hope of rehabilitation. But Supermax prisons exist at a whole other level. At prisons like ADX Florence, when inmates behave violently or otherwise flout the rules, they're stripped of one of the few remaining aspects of regular human existence: social interaction. Prisoners who break the rules in most other facilities may get sent to what's called administrative segregation. That's solitary confinement, or more bluntly, the hole, which most agree is a kind of torture. People in the hole are essentially just made to sit in a tiny box of a cell, denied all contact with others, for an indefinite, sometimes very lengthy period of time.
It is as stark can be. It was not designed with humanity in mind.
Upon arrival, every prisoner at ADX Florence is immediately sent into an almost completely solitary environment for at least 3 years. The very worst offenders may find themselves relegated to Range 13, a set of 4 cells in the already restrictive SHU. Completely isolated from the rest of the prison, inmates confined to Range 13 aren't permitted to speak with or see anyone at all. Inmates at ADX Florence can expect to be confined to their one-man cells for anywhere between 22 and 24 hours a day. The cells are tight, measuring about 7 feet wide by 12 feet long. Prisoners are locked behind 2 doors, a heavy steel door to the cell itself, as well as a second door enclosing a 3-foot area just outside, a so-called safety zone for the guards. The isolation is extreme.
It's all concrete, there's no sharp edges, it's all smooth corners, it is all battleship gray, I can smell the paint.
There's no cafeteria at ADX Florence. Prisoners take their meals in their cells alone. The food is delivered through a narrow slot in the inner door. This cuts down interaction with other human beings to almost nothing. Inmates may catch a glimpse of a guard when their food arrives, but there's no chance of seeing other inmates, even through the tiny food slots, because cells in every place except the step-down units are all situated on the same side of the hall. In the step-down units, inmates share a common area where they may interact with a few other inmates within a carefully controlled, closely observed situation. Cells at ADX Florence are just big enough for the very basics of existence, nothing frivolous. The furniture is heavy and fixed in place, made out of poured concrete. That way, nothing can be used as a weapon. Each cell contains a single bed, a shelf-like desk attached to the wall, a bookshelf, and a stool.
They give you a plastic mattress that's about an inch thick, if that.
There's only one window per cell. It's 42 inches long and only 4 inches wide. This allows the inmate to see whether it's day or night outside, but the windows are angled in such a way that all they can see is the sky, or in a few cases, some brush or another part of the prison campus. This was done so prisoners can't triangulate their location within the prison. The bathroom facilities are right next to the bed. These consist of a combination sink and toilet unit made up of stainless steel alongside a shower. Prisoners can't take long hot showers either. The water is designed to automatically shut off after just a few minutes of use. An 84 square foot cell that serves as one's entire world for almost 24 hours a day for years on end with only a couple of immovable pieces of furniture doesn't offer much in the way of mental stimulation. So the average master bathroom is around 100 square feet, so smaller than that, but with a bed. That's the point. At ADX Florence, inmates are allowed to do whatever they want in their cells as long as it isn't harmful to themselves or others. Travis Dusenberry, who was incarcerated at ADX Florence for 10 years, told the Marshall Project, "Wasn't much you could do. Push-ups, reading. You could also write, but the only pens you could get were expensive. And then when you got them, they were these little floppy rubber ink pens, the length of a crayon. There was a reason for that. It was impossible to turn those pens into knives." Prisoners of Florence have access to very few other creature comforts. Inmates in good standing are given a small radio for the cell, as well as a 12-inch black and white TV, unless they're housed in the special security unit. The radio is set up to broadcast only music from prison-based stations, while the TV plays mostly religious and educational programming.
There was no sound. You'd have to plug the cable into it, and then you wear your earphones, and you can listen.
There are no in-person religious services at the prison because congregating isn't allowed. Church services are held remotely via TV, as are classes. Being sentenced to ADX Florence doesn't necessarily mean living in solitary confinement for one's entire sentence. The staff continuously evaluates prisoners, and those who can get through their time without causing trouble are then rewarded with small but significant privileges. Prisoners who behave well may be moved into a step-down program. Once there, they are allowed 3 hours per day outside of their cells. That's the most lenient it gets at Florence. At various phases of step-down, inmates can also earn as many as 300 minutes of monthly phone time and access to a computer and a GED program. A very small percentage of an inmate's time at ADX Florence prison is spent outside of their cell. Some prisoners are allowed to visit the law library, which isn't what you think. There's no giant room full of law books on the premises. In the higher security wings at Florence, the law library is just another empty cell within the inmate's cell block, which holds a computer that's been programmed to access very particular pertinent materials. Near the makeshift law library, there's also an observation cell. This is where an inmate will be held if they're deemed to be a risk to themselves and need to be watched, or if there's been a behavioral incident. Prisoners who need to speak by phone with their attorneys also use this cell. As for medical appointments, these happen in an exam room set up near the observation cell and law library. Inmates are allowed to exercise in their cells, but there's no gym equipment there or anywhere else. Prisoners with the privilege will be escorted to an exercise and recreation area for an average of an hour a day by a team of 3 to 5 guards. According to a former inmate at Florence, staff may cancel these visits with no explanation. During the transfer to what passes for a recreation area, inmates are handcuffed and shackled. They're then taken either to a room equipped with a pull-up bar or, on alternating days, an outside pen. For control unit prisoners, recreation takes place alone in one of 6 empty concrete rooms. Inmates in general population work out by doing pull-ups or running or walking around within a radius of about 10 steps. This happens in a concrete room with a barred ceiling where the prisoners are free to interact with their fellow inmates. Special security unit prisoners get exercise time in a similar area but work out in isolation, while the Kilo unit has a common area outfitted with one stationary bicycle. Meanwhile, while inmates are away from their cells for exercise, guards use this time to search the cells for contraband. At ADX Florence, prisoners are subject to near total solitary confinement, but there are opportunities to improve their situation. If prisoners show signs of rehabilitation and exhibit positive behavior, they can earn less time alone. One aspect of the multi-tiered step-down system covers exercise time. Referred prisoners are allowed to exercise in a larger, but still confined, outdoor space. Former Florence inmate Dusenberry recalled, "You could see the sky. You were with 2 to 7 people at a time instead of just yourself." Prisoners who aren't under a security restriction or living in one of the more secure units may also be allowed to work, but the vast majority of Florence inmates aren't permitted to have jobs. A work assignment is coveted because it leads to more precious social interaction. Dusenberry explained, "Sometimes I was the orderly and would go around to different cells on the unit, cleaning up." Supermax prisons do allow some contact with the world outside the walls in the form of in-person visits, but these interactions are closely regulated and not easy for either party. ADX Florence was deliberately built in a remote location, about 40 miles south of Colorado Springs and roughly 115 miles from Denver. Without a car, it's difficult and expensive to get there, and there are few if any hotel rooms for visitors. Most units allow visitors several days a week, but there are 34 days a year designated as special administrative days, during which visits are canceled. Upon arrival at ADX Florence, visitors are selectively screened by an ion spectrometry device for banned, illegal, and dangerous objects. They then proceed to a room that holds 8 visitation stalls, although only one inmate and their guests are allowed in the area at any given time. There's no physical contact between inmates and visitors. They speak over a direct phone line and are separated by transparent glass. Inmates are also allowed 1 phone call per month, no longer than 15 minutes.
After a year, if you got good behavior, the most you can get is 2 calls a month.
And once again, while prisoners are with visitors, guards conduct cell checks.